Landline Now every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, along with an encore presentation weekdays at noon, right here on tncradio.live.
Welcome in from the TNC Radio.live studios. Tom Kelly here with tonight's keywords. Keywords for Wednesday, October the 5th. Keyword number 1, fine. Fine, F-I-N-E, fine. Keyword number 2, payoff. Payoff, P-A-Y-O-F-F, payoff. Keyword number 3, great. Great, G-R-E-A-T, great. And the fourth and final keyword for October the 5th is lucky. Lucky. Enter those keywords now at www.tncradio.live or use the tncradio.live app in this nationwide contest. Good luck from TNC Radio and Hot Shots Secret. Welcome in, TNC Radio.live. This is Taillights with the Baums. And now here's your host, Angie Baum.
Welcome back, everybody. So glad that you guys are here. We got a great show for you guys set up for tonight. Tonight's just going to be me because we're actually rolling down the road and Larry's driving. But I do have a great guest with us. I do have Miss Mona Beadle. Welcome to the show, Mona.
Thank you for the invite.
Usually the way we start off is I just kind of let everybody introduce themselves. So you want to kind of introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about your trucking experience?
Oh my, that goes back a long time. Anyway, hello everyone. My name is Mona Beadle. I am a truck driver of many moons and days, going on 35 years. And I started back in 89. So I had started out when there wasn't that many women out there on the road. And so I am still here today.
That's awesome. Now, I was going to ask you, did you always want to be a truck driver, or what got you into the trucking industry, especially because you've been in it for 35 years, is that right?
Yes, off and on for 35 years. No, I was the little girl that wanted to be an airline stewardess, so I don't know how I got from planes to driving trucks. So I never even thought about it. Matter of fact, when I was growing up and I first got my license, I told my mother, because there were so many crazy drivers out there, at that time. Anyway, I told her I would not even drive out of the city of Lakeland, from Florida, so Lakeland, Florida. And I guess God had a bigger plan for me because now I just go all over.
Okay, that's so awesome. Now, I also was going to ask you if you kind of explain to me a little bit about the first time that you actually drove a truck, and it was an older cab over. You want to tell everybody a little bit about that story?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, when I first started driving, I wasn't planning on it. My husband and my daughter had went up to the store to go get some things, and when they did, the truck that they were in broke down. And so he calls me on the phone and says, "Hey, I need you to come and get me." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean? There's nothing here." He says, "The keys are in the cab over." And I'm just thinking, like, you got to be kidding. And he says, "No, you're the only one that I can call to come and get us, and we're stranded, and I need you to get up in that truck and go." And I'm thinking, oh, this ain't going to be good. And so anyway, I said, well, as long as I can get it started and get it moving, I'm not going to worry about the gears. It had 9 gears in it. And I said, I'm not worrying about the gears right now, but I do want to remember where the brake was. And so that was actually the first time I ever got in a big truck and drove on my own, going down to the store, probably about 5 miles or so down the road in I think it was like a 85 cab over.
Were you scared to death?
Oh, absolutely. I was shaking the whole time I was trying to get the truck started. I watched him enough to know, because he would kind of explain to me all the time. Sorry about that. He would try to explain to me all the time, about what everything was and the gears and, the air brakes and stuff. So that's all I knew. And so when I got up in the truck, like I said, shaking, probably almost in tears, but being confident that I knew that I could get down there. And I loved it, Laura. I loved it. Every gear I grind, but I got there, and then I pulled into the parking lot. I just kind of coasted it in, put the brake on, and dust went everywhere. But guess what? I got them rescued.
You got them rescued. Got there in one piece. I mean, hey, that's amazing.
Yes. Yes.
So I have to say, there's not a whole lot of women that can say that they have been in the industry as long as you have. What do you think has been some of the biggest changes that you've seen in the industry over the last 35 years where it pertains to women?
Oh, there is a lot of changes. When I first started, like you said, there was very few women, and the women that you did come in contact with, they wouldn't talk to you. It was not a sisterhood whatsoever. I don't know why they didn't. I never asked, but it was, a man's world, and, we were just trying to fit in, and I thought we would be able to communicate together, but that's not so. I mean, now you have hundreds of women every day going in for their CDLs and trying to make a better life for themselves. There's women, that has been in the medical field, coming out of corporate offices, things like that, to come into driving, because they want that new journey. They want that adventure.
Absolutely. I think it's absolutely me. I know over the last 5 years, just the increase in women out here on the roads has been remarkable. And like you said, they're coming from all walks of life, which is really cool. And it's, for the longest time, it was, people our age, but now we're seeing a lot of the younger drivers coming out too, which is nice.
Yeah, they're different, ages and things. And, I have a lot of trucking groups on my media page. And, I see where they're like coming out of school and saying, oh, I'm a professional driver. And, and I don't want to discourage them. I encourage women to be drivers. I just want them to be aware of some of the obstacles, some of the struggles they may have. You're never, always going to know everything when it comes to driving, men and women alike.
Yes.
So when I say professional, even me being in this position for 35 years, professional, yes. But there's just so much more to learn than just, going up and down the interstate. And I tell these girls when they say this, I said, it's not just about driving your truck. It's about knowing your truck. It's knowing your surroundings and such. So, I just want them to be aware of what they're coming into.
That is so true. And I've noticed that myself too. Oftentimes, especially the newer drivers, they don't really want to take advice as well as maybe say a few years ago. So I've noticed that myself. We're going to take a break here in just a few minutes. But when we come back, we're going to talk about your organization, Trekking Angels for Christ. And I do want to tell everybody that they can find you on Facebook. You want to tell everybody a little bit about where they can find you on social media?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. We'll be back in just a few minutes with Moto Beetle, and we'll be talking all about Trekking Angels for Christ.
Driving 11 hours a day, 7 days a week can be emotionally and physically exhausting. Sleep is a very important part of a long-haul truck driver's life. Being well rested and alert makes driving a lot safer for both the trucker and other drivers on the road. Getting enough sleep may sound easier than it seems. Living on the road makes it difficult to get the recommended 8 hours of sleep. In fact, it's common for truckers to not get 8 hours of sleep due to the 11-hour work shift. To help, we've put together 5 tips to help truckers stay awake while driving. Take vitamins. One way truckers can stay awake while driving is by taking vitamins. Not only are vitamins good energy boosters, they have tons of other health benefits too. Vitamin B helps with fatigue, depression, mood boosting, and muscle weakness. Consider adding vitamins to your morning routine. Eat healthy. An unhealthy diet has a huge impact on one's overall health. Dr. Jennifer Sachek says, our bodies rely on the energy and nutrients we get from food. So what you eat, and how and when you eat it, can either drain you or sustain you. It might be more convenient to stop at a fast food restaurant or truck stop, but constantly eating junk food drains your energy. Take a nap. Before you hit the road, consider taking a short 20-minute nap. Several studies have shown that a quick nap immediately increases alertness and gives a boost in cognitive performance. Stay hydrated. Water has many health benefits. One benefit is reducing the chance of being fatigued. Drinking a pint of cold water is a great way to refresh yourself and stay more alert. Listen to upbeat music. Listening to upbeat music will have you tapping your foot, singing along, and staying alert in no time. Avoid listening to relaxing music or audiobooks. Those tend to make drivers more relaxed and sleepy. Truckers have a very demanding job. In order to deal with the stress and demands, it's very important to get the right amount of sleep. Hopefully these 5 tips will help you stay awake while driving.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hotshot Secret, powered by science.
Be sure to catch the Truckers Network radio show with your host, Shelley Johnson, weekdays at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on tncradio.live.
Welcome back on a Wednesday night, tncradio.live. This is Taillights, and here's your host, Angie Baum.
Welcome back, everybody. So when we were on the commercial break, Tom made a good point. Mona shared with us her first day behind the wheel on a truck, and I guess I've never shared mine. So for those of you who don't know, Larry was my trainer for the first 6 months that I was out here on the road, which made for a very interesting marriage. But the very first day that I ever drove truck, I was not supposed to drive. It was a spur of the moment. They called us and asked if we would like to take a run to Kansas City, Missouri. And it was actually Thanksgiving night. And we were at my family's house eating. And we're like, sure, why not? We'll go. And I thought that I was just going to ride along with him. And he goes, oh, no. He goes, you're driving. So I had to drive all the way to Kansas City and back. And I was a nervous wreck, but mainly just because Larry was my boss. And if anybody knows Larry and how OCD he is, it's pretty scary and intimidating having him as your boss. So the first night was scary for me.
So the first
that was my first night.
First time was at night.
Yes, wow. I drove through the night.
Wow.
That was hard to stay awake. Especially after we just ate Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, no.
Yeah. That was hard.
But one good thing about that, Angie, is that you can't see everything else. Like, you know, if you're having to go over any mountains or anything, you can't see how far down you are. So it's good. It kind of keeps you focused.
That's true. Yeah, that was a hard night between the turkey and just, I'd never driven at night, especially in a semi-truck. I was like, oh my gosh, it was scary. I think it was like white knuckling the whole way. Oh, So I was going to have you tell everybody, Mona, you want to explain to us a little bit about what exactly Trucking Angels for Christ is and how you started this ministry?
Yes. Well, Trucking Angels for Christ is a evangelist. I can't even say that word. We evangelize to the drivers and to the people that are connected with in trucking. Not only to, I don't say we're limited to just the trucking industry, but that's our focus for the women truckers. I have been in ministry when I first started, often, I say off and on because I was doing some ministry work, and then I come out on the road, and then God would shift things with me. But I, would go to the different chapels, and I would sing gospel at the different truck stop chapels, wherever the Lord had led me. Actually, there's some churches that He led me to, and the door was open, and I would go and give a testimony or sing. And so me being in the truck as a single lady, I know what the different struggles are. I know the loneliness. I know crying myself to sleep because I couldn't be with my kids. I was a mother, a single mother of two, and I didn't have the support, and I didn't want to go on welfare or anything, so I chose to drive truck. But to say this is because I know what it's like to be out here and being a woman driver, then I had the compassion on others. And that's where Trucking Angels for Christ started. We were on a call line at first, and then, I've been praying about it, and a couple of peers had, been praying with me, and, they were in leadership, and they said it's time that, you let God use you. And so then we formed Trucking Angels for Christ Ministries, and it's been amazing. I mean, the people that I have been able to meet. And so I just want to, pray for them and encourage them and give them hope and a reason to keep going.
I was going to say, one of the things people may not know is that some of the truck stops do have, like you had mentioned, chapels in them. A lot of them are TAs and Petros. But a lot of them do have the chapels where they have like Wednesday night and then usually a couple services on Sunday, which I love seeing that when I'm out on the road, because it's not at every truck stop. It's usually TA and Petros, but it's a rarity, but it's a nice thing to see when we do see it out there. But this is another good alternative, where you don't have to wait for a Wednesday or a Sunday either if you need, to reach out to someone.
Absolutely. The sad thing is a lot of the chapels and things are closing down, and I'm hoping and praying that we can venture out more. But I try to let people know I do the live Facebook feeds, 2-3 times a week, bringing the Word of God to them and to the drivers, and also I do put my number out there, and I tell them if there's anything that they need, if, they just need to talk or cry or have coffee or pray, I'm available. And so my phone does stay busy, but, I just put myself out there to be available, because there are so many people that do need to talk and share things that they wouldn't normally share with other people.
I say, and you try to make it to most of the bigger truck shows as well, to try to set up booths there as well. Have you found it very perceptive? Have you found like a lot of truckers that have come by and been like, "Oh, this is great, and we need something like this out here in the trucking industry"?
Oh, absolutely. I hear that all the time. Before the COVID, we did 6 events that year. The first time we sat up at the Great American Truck Show in Louisville, Kentucky. That's the biggest one that we do attend every year. they bring in hundreds of thousands of people. But there were, I think one of the team members counted, there was like 150 people that gave their lives to Christ or rededicated their lives that weekend. And so these are extremely important, not just to me, but to be able to set up at these truck shows and be there, for the people when they come by. And you wouldn't believe the people we pray for. It brings me in tears. I'm just in awe. I remember this one young lady this past year, we went to a truck show, and I asked her, we were talking, and I asked her, if I could pray for her. And I'm telling you, Angela, it was such reward to me in my spirit, because as soon as she come to me, she just hugged me and just began to weep. I mean, she just began to cry, and I just prayed over her, and it was like the spirit of heaviness just lifted right off of her. So we see a lot of people that come by and tell us, you just don't know how glad I am to see this ministry. We really need this ministry.
It's so true. And we talked a little bit about the isolation and, the struggles that we all face out here in the trucking industry. Know that, there's a place that you could go to talk to somebody is so essential. We're going to take another break here in a few minutes, but when we come back, I was going to have you share with us what it was like, one of the most memorable stories in your ministry that you've had over the last few years. And so we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So just stick right here with us. And we'll be back in a few minutes with Miss Mona Beadle.
Be sure to listen to Building Strong Minds with Dr. Chris, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, right here on tncradio.live.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christopher Cortman, and now for the Mental Health Minute. In part one, we were talking about stress, and I shared a story about how some people actually escape stress by jumping out of an airplane with a parachute. For most of us, that would be an experience that would create stress. So, what in the world is stress? Stress is a specific reaction in the body to a non-specific stimulus, meaning anything can create stress for someone if they perceive it as a threat. Now, what happens when we're stressed is that the body is preparing us to do one of two things, either to fight or to flight. And most of us understand that best when we think of an example like seeing flashing lights in our rearview mirror. We automatically know how it feels when that police officer is bearing down on us and we need to pull over. Our hearts start racing and our chest gets constricted and tight, and our breathing becomes rapid and shallow, and the blood's pumping to the major muscle groups, chest, back, arms, shoulders, again, preparing us to take some action. And if you follow that scenario all the way through, whether or not the police officer pulls us over or is aiming for the next guy, usually minutes later, the stress response stops. We return to normal, to equilibrium. And, it was just there for a burst, that whole fight or flight. That's called an alarm reaction. There was a professor at the University of Montreal, a guy named Hans Selye, who studied what he called the GAS syndrome. GAS, not the kind that my kids complain about, but GAS stands for the General Adaptation Syndrome. And that's how the body prepares and deals with stress. So the very first stage of stress is this alarm reaction where we go into fight or flight. I'll take you through the next two stages and then what we could do about stress in the upcoming videos.
It's Landline Now, followed by Steve Summers' Overnight Drive every night on TNCRadio.live starting at 11 p.m. Eastern and 10 p.m. Central.
Hope Savara here. Tune in every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on TNCRadio.live for my new show, The Driver Life Podcast. From your feet to the food you eat, from cellular health to how your cell phone affects your health, from how you move to improving your sleep. I believe it's the small, simple changes that lead to the big results in your life so that you can feel good again. We cover it all here on the Driver Life Podcast. Every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern on TNCRadio.live.
Welcome back in TNCRadio.live, a Wednesday night. This is Taillights with the Baums. And now here's your host, Angie Baum.
Thank you so much. We are here with Mona Beadle from Trekking Angels for Christ. And she was talking to us a little bit about the organization before we went to break. But do you want to tell everybody how they can find you on social media if they wanted to follow you?
Oh, absolutely. We have a Facebook page where I do most of the live feeds on the Facebook page, and it'll be under Trucking Angels for Christ, INC. They can find me on Twitter and also on TikTok. And there are more doors opening up, and then I can let people know once they start opening, then I will post it on Facebook.
Absolutely. Yeah, TikTok seems to be a really good way to get the word out, I've noticed over the last few years.
Yeah, it is. You got to be careful.
Yep.
There are some things you don't want to get involved in.
Yep. That is true. Especially politics. That seems to be the big one. I never want to step on that one. So I was going to ask you, what has been, I know you've been doing the ministry for a while now. What is one of the most, I guess, touching stories that you could tell us about your ministry?
Oh my gosh. Each day is a new day and full of, I can't explain. It's words cannot explain, because when God moves on the people and you're there and you're able to pray them through and you can see it, it's just awesome, because, that's what we're all to do, is to minister the gospel and build the kingdom of God and, help our neighbors and our friends and families. And,
oh, absolutely.
It's just breathtaking. When I can reflect on all the different things. Now, I believe in the power of healing without a shadow of a doubt. And, the ministry, it extends far and wide. And like I said, we pray for people. I've seen people call me back, and the testimonies that have came back on our line. We do a Tuesday night line, and I'll discuss that in a minute. But just to hear the testimonies that come back of the goodness of God and that He answered the prayers. And but the one particular, like I said, it goes on and on. But the one particular time is there's a little girl that come into the CC Pizza. And see, the ministry just don't stop here. It goes out, like I said, whenever God puts it on your heart to pray or move. So anyway, this little girl came in. Her arm was bent. She had fell on her arm, and her arm was bent. She was probably about 5 or 6 years old. And, she was telling her mama how much that it hurt her. And I'm like, wow, and I just felt the Lord telling me, go pray for her. So I told my daughter, I said, go out in the truck and get my anointing oil. And she did, and she came back, and I put some on my hands, and I went over there, and I asked the mother, I said, I would like to pray for your daughter, if that's okay. And she said, sure. And so I prayed for that little girl, and the power of God moved on her. And I felt the warmth, on her elbow and on her arm. And then, I prayed for her and then let God do what he does best. And so I sat back down, and it wasn't a few minutes later that baby stretched her arms out and was so happy. She says, "Look, Mommy, I can move my arms again." And
that's amazing.
Things like that just want to grip your heart. There's people out here that are having a hard time, and we pray for them, and they'll tell you, I just want to thank you for taking the time out and praying for me. The list goes on, girl. It don't stop.
Well, I was going to say, and especially, because I know you don't deal with just truckers. However, that is, one of your main focuses. And I was going to say, you probably hear from a lot of truckers, especially the solo truckers like yourself, about how hard the trucking industry is when you're out here all alone. You're missing all those family events and all the important things, and having a resource like Trucking Angels for Christ, has got to be so important to a lot of truckers.
I believe it is. I believe that's why God called me to hold this torch for this ministry, because, I want to show the compassion that Christ showed me. I want to show the love to others out here as he has showed me. And so, when someone's had a hard day, or, you just pray with them, like, and I'm boasting in God and not in myself when I say this, but if you are out there, and I've seen you do this too, but when you're out there and you see a truck driver that, you hear, oh, it's his birthday or it's her birthday, I have gone inside and bought a bouquet of flowers and saw the truck that they got into and went to their truck. Now, he's dangerous. You don't do this all the time. I'm just warning you, don't do that. But, I have made some really good friends, and one lady named Linda. And so it was her birthday. I bought her some flowers. I said, I just want to know you to know that there are people out here that care. And so, we had become really good friends just because of showing compassion and showing a heart for the other drivers out here.
See, that's so important. I also wanted, you did kind of touch base, but I want to talk a little bit more. On Tuesday night, you have a ministry line for truckers that starts at 7 p.m. Eastern. You want to tell everybody a little bit about that?
Yes, ma'am. And we may do something for the drivers as well. They usually see me live on Facebook. But this is a phone line that we have had for over 7 years. And every Tuesday night for 7 years, we go on the line and we minister. And what's significant about this line is you can call in from anywhere that you're at and be a part of the fellowship. And we have guest speakers that bring a word from the Lord. They may bring a testimony. We have prayer night. It just keeps the drivers connected to fellow Christ-like, people. Being out here, the CB is full of stuff that you don't really want to hear. You hear, people complaining and cussing and just being outraged all day long. People cutting you off. Anyway, this is like a safe haven to allow the lady drivers to come and share their feelings, hear their heart, listen to a good word. Because, see, us being truck drivers, we can't get our truck into just any church parking lot. So this is kind of like bringing the church to them, the fellowship to them.
That is so smart. And for anybody who's listening, I am going to put the information up on Married to the Road after the show. But the number is 681-999-0246. And that's going to be for the Tuesday night ministry again, 681-999-0246. It starts at 7 p.m. Eastern. And you can also get more information about that on Facebook at her page, Trucking Angels for Christ, and also on TikTok and Twitter. So when we come back in a few minutes, we're going to talk a little bit about what it was like for you as a mom to be raising your kids out on the truck, because I know you talked a little bit about the fact that you raised your 2 kids on the truck during the summertime. And so we're going to talk about that. Mm-hmm. We'll be back in just a few minutes with Miss Mona Beadle from Trucking Angels for Christ.
Front Lane introduces Impulse, the world's first collision alert system for the driver behind you when you have to brake hard. Impulse uses ultra-bright pulsing red LEDs to alert drivers behind you who might not be giving their full attention to the road. Using amazing accelerometer technology and a battery that will last for years, Impulse installs in minutes, fits nearly any vehicle, and never requires additional wiring. Drivers react 50% faster, helping to protect you and your passengers. Learn more by visiting www.frontlane.com/impulse. That's www.frontlane.com/impulse. Approved by all 50 states. Impulse by Front Lane.
CDL Permit Test Study Tips for Truck Drivers. The CDL permit test is one of the most important tests you'll take in your trucking career. Drivers must pass the test to practice driving a semi-truck, bus, or any other vehicle that's over 26,000 pounds. Like any test, you need to study and take the necessary steps to get prepared. The CDL permit test covers a lot of information. Studying the entire 180-page CDL manual can be overwhelming and exhausting. Luckily, we have some CDL permit test study tips to help make the studying for the exam much less stressful. What is the CDL permit test? Just like you have to have a permit before obtaining a regular driver's license, you need to get a commercial learner's permit, a CLP, before you can earn your CDL. A CLP allows you to operate a commercial motor vehicle while under the supervision of a valid CDL holder. To get a CLP, you must first pass the CLP test. The CLP test is a 100-question written exam divided up into 3 sections: general knowledge, air brakes, and combination vehicles. CDL permit test study tips. The CDL permit covers a lot of information. Typically, a state CDL manual is over 180 pages long. If you want to pass, you'll need to allow yourself plenty of time to study and prepare. Trying to cram all the study material in a couple of days before the exam will not give you the best results. We suggest studying a little bit each day when you're alert and able to retain as much information as possible. Get your state's CDL handbook. Each state has its own CDL handbook that has answers to questions that are found on the CDL permit test. It's important to have the most up-to-date version of the handbook. Find out what to study. So you have your state's CDL handbook. Now it's time to study. The key to studying for the CDL permit test is to study smart, not hard. Finding out what is exactly on the exam is one way of studying smart. Take a practice test. Practice tests are a great way to show what you know and what you need to be studying. Also, taking a practice test can make you feel more familiar and confident, which will help you reduce anxiety on the day of the CDL permit test. In conclusion, studying for the CDL permit test may seem overwhelming at first, but establishing a good study routine will help you get prepared and reduce stress. Remember, know what's on the test. Focus on topics you're weak on, take a practice test, and have fun. You're listening to TNCRadio.live. Remember to tune in to the Truckers Network radio show with Shelley Johnson weekdays at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Truckers Life Radio from TFC Global with your host, Ron Frazier, every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. On the show, Ron interviews guests to help inform professional drivers just like you about the importance of things like human trafficking to sex addiction to how to overcome the impossible odds on the way to success. Every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome back in, TNC Radio.live. This is Taillights with the Baums. Here's Angie Baum.
Welcome back, everybody. Before we went to break, I did give you the number for the Tuesday night ministry live through Trucking Angels for Christ. But I want to give it to you one more time because I forgot to give you the access number. So again, that phone number is 681-999-0246. And then it's going to ask you for an access code. And that number is going to be 251694 and then the pound sign. So just a reminder again, that's Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, so that you can join the live ministry chat. So now, Mona, you were just mentioned during the break that you had just last month been a part of the Daughters of Unshakable Faith. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. You're talking about a blessing, and you're talking about being scared to put something together. And, I always say, I'm scared, but, sometimes, you want it to be just perfect, and you want it to be just right. And so the Lord had put it on my heart 2 years ago to have this conference, and we were going to have it last year. And when I had to make the decision not to have it, it literally broke my heart. I went out in the yard and I went to my knees and I cried. But, we do have other staff. And so we had to not do that because of the COVID that went down to Florida. And so anyway, we were able to have it this year. We hosted our first annual Daughter of Unshakable Faith Conference. And we had Carol Barham. She's a country gospel artist, has beautiful voice. She came from Alabama. We had chaplains that came from Missouri. Just all over. God orchestrated this. I was the spokesperson, asking people, if they would come, and, we had singers. We had probably 6 guest speakers. It was women. And then we had several country gospel artists that were there. And let me tell you, when it started, none of them talked about what they were going to talk about. We just knew that we were on a mission. And so each person that talked pretty much left off where the other person ended. And it was on believing, not listening to the other voices, and listen to God's voice. That's what they all brought out of this. And it was just amazing. It was truly amazing. So we are excited because we're going to get geared up. We actually put this thing together in like 2 months. So wow. It was like trying to get everything done, and praise God, everything, was accomplished, and there were people set free. There were people on their knees crying, and I really believe that the Lord did incredible things through that conference, and so we're excited. We're going to definitely start the first of the year on the next one. So we really enjoyed
awesome. It. Well, and more big news for you is that you just started a new column called On the Brighter Side for Gear Jammer Magazine. You want to tell everybody a little bit about that? Because that is super exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting to me because, we have, the secular world, and so that focuses on the ones that actually, maybe don't know Christ, they're not following Christ, and they may be lost. But anyway, I say that was an opportunity. When I was at the, matter of fact, another one of the truck shows, the Lord told me to go and take a Bible and one of our books over to them. It's a real life testimonies of truck drivers. So I took that over to him, and then I just looked at him and I said, do you have an inspirational page in your magazine? And he said, no. And then I just looked at him. He said, but you know what? I think that's an excellent idea. I mean, I was floored. So he opened up that door for me to do 6 issues a year. It goes like every 2 months, and so I'm actually just editing my 3rd issue, and it's called "Being Thankful and Be Full of Joy," and it's talking. This particular one is talking about how hard it is for people to go into November, December holidays. You know, being out here as a trucker, you know, a lot of the truck drivers do not get to make it home, or they have lost people throughout the year, and it's hard on them. And so, it's coming into a season that people really need people to love on them and pray for them. And so, anyway, that's where I go to say, well, this happened this year, and I know that you went through some struggles and turmoils, but let me give you the brighter side. And God is that brighter side, because he says to be thankful in all things, and then Paul says to be counted all joy. So that's a way that, the Lord had opened up to where I can say, okay, this is what's happening, but let me give you the brighter side of things. And then that it allows me to, pour out the word into them.
That is so amazing. I remember when you posted that on Facebook a little bit ago, and I was just like, of all the people for that to happen to, it couldn't happen to a better person, because we do need, in an industry, no offense, but trucking can be a dark industry. It's nice to have a little positivity and inspiration.
Yeah. And I, when I sit back, I said, Lord, who am I? But it's because I love him and he loves me. And I really believe that it's because he knows he can trust his people in my hands. And don't take that the wrong way. He knows my heart. And my heart for these drivers, I just cry.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
because it's a hard job.
Oh, it's a very hard job. And it's, especially because you've been solo most of your career, it's a tough job.
Mm-hmm. But it's awesome that, there are a lot of people that have different ministries that are really reaching out to these drivers these days.
Yeah, and especially now, the last 2 years have just been so hard. And so it's nice when the truckers know that there is some place that they can go to, especially if they're having a bad day, or, if they're having a hard time with family life. There's some place that they can go to where they have an ear or somebody to listen to.
Exactly. We don't have all the answers, but we know the one that does. And God's plans are higher than ours, and his ways are higher than ours, and we just have to trust him and stay focused on him and his word, and that's how we make it out here.
Absolutely. Mona Vito, I want to thank you so much with being with us tonight, and I want to remind everybody that you can find Mona's page, Trucking Angels for Christ, on Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. Reminder that she also does sermons 3 to 4 times a week that you guys can find on there. And we don't want anybody to forget also that she also has her Tuesday night ministry line, which is really cool. It starts at 7 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday nights, where you can call in and be a part of the ministry no matter where you're at over the road. And again, that phone number, and I will put it up on Married to the Road also, is 681-999-0246. And the access code to get in is going to be 251694#. I want to thank you so much for being on here with us, Miss Bona. You are a true legend, been out there for 35 years as a female driver. I can't thank you enough.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the offer. I do need to tell them, the audience, that the Tuesday nights, I'm sorry, but it's women only. Tuesday nights are for the women only, but then they can follow me, men and women, both can follow me on the Facebook.
Oh, good to know. I'm glad you said that because I did not know that. Women only.
We may work on something because they need to be able to talk, and so they need to be able to talk.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Miss Mona. And don't forget, you can catch Larry and I back here next Wednesday for Taillights with the Baums at 7 p.m. And don't forget about seeing me, Larry, and Tom on Sunday nights with House of the Driver. And we'll see you guys back here next Wednesday. Be safe, everybody.
Budgeting tips for over-the-road truck drivers. Budgeting can be rather overwhelming at first. It requires a plan and self-discipline. But there's no need to be scared. Once you get the hang of budgeting, it'll become easy and will no longer feel like you're restrained from your finances. It's a good feeling to know exactly how much you're spending and where your money's going. Start budgeting today, and you'll begin to save money and see a difference in your finances. Here are some great budgeting tips for over-the-road truck drivers. Know your why. The first step to creating a budget is understanding your why. What is your reasoning for creating a budget? What do you want to accomplish? Are you trying to pay off debt? Are you trying to save for a big purchase? Or are you just wanting to be more conscious of your spending? Knowing your why before creating a budget will help motivate you and keep you on track. Set goals. Setting goals will help you achieve your why. To pay off debt or to save a specific amount, you need to know how much you need to be saving and budgeting each month. It's much easier to save and budget when you have a specific goal. Saving just to save does not always keep you motivated. Know your income. Since drivers typically get paid by the mail, drivers have a fluctuating income. Unless you have a dedicated route, your paychecks will vary. Drivers with a set income have a much easier time creating their budget because they know the exact amount they're bringing in every month. If you have a fluctuating income, it's best to know your baseline, meaning you need to know the bare minimum expenses that you need to cover every month. You need